The hospital room was quiet except for the steady beeping of the heart monitor. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, her hands trembling as she clutched her father's weak fingers. The once strong man who had carried her on his shoulders, who had built a life from nothing, was now fading before her eyes. Tears welled up, but she forced herself to smile when he opened his eyes. "I'm okay, sweetheart," he whispered, his voice a fragile echo of the man she knew. But Emily knew he wasn't okay. That moment was the beginning of everything. Emily had grown up in a small town, where dreams often stayed just that, dreams. Her father had always told her, "Emily, life will knock you down, but it's not about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you get back up." He had lived by those words, raising her alone after her mother passed away when she was 6. Every sacrifice he made was for Emily. Working late shifts, patching their worn-out clothes, skipping meals to make sure she never went hungry. But now, the strongest person in her life was the weakest, and Emily felt her world crumbling. The doctor explained her father's condition, his heart was failing, and without an expensive surgery, he wouldn't survive. Emily's mind went blank. She was working part-time at a cafe while studying to become a nurse. The bills already weighed her down. The thought of losing him was unbearable, but the cost of saving him was far beyond her reach. That night, Emily cried herself to sleep in the hospital chair. She remembered how her father once told her, "When you feel like you can't carry on, that's when you must." And so, she made a promise to herself she would find a way, no matter what it took. The days that followed tested Emily more than she ever thought possible. She worked double shifts, taking on extra hours at the cafe, tutoring kids in the evenings, and even cleaning offices at night. Sleep became a luxury, and exhaustion was her constant companion. Friends noticed how thin and tired she looked, but Emily only smiled and said, "I'll be okay." She had to be. But challenges came one after another. The landlord raised their rent. Her car broke down, and she had to walk miles to work. Some nights she returned home, sat on the edge of her bed, and broke down in tears, whispering into the silence, "I can't do this." Yet every morning, she wiped her eyes, tied her hair back, and pushed forward. The world wasn't always kind. There were people who mocked her for always looking worn out, people who doubted her strength. At work, customers complained when she forgot their orders, and her boss threatened to fire her if she kept making mistakes. Emily felt like she was drowning in a sea of responsibility, and no one noticed her struggle. Still, she held on to her father's words. She remembered the nights he would sit beside her when she was little, telling her stories of heroes who never gave up. She realized now, she had to be that hero not just for him, but for herself. One night, after finishing her third shift of the day, Emily walked into the hospital with a small envelope in her hand. She had finally gathered enough for the first deposit on her father's surgery. She showed him the money, and his eyes filled with tears. "Emily, you're sacrificing too much," he said softly. "I don't want to see you suffer like this." But she shook her head firmly. "Dad, everything I am is because of you. You taught me to fight, and I'm not giving up on you." Just when things seemed to be moving forward, another blow hit. The hospital called to say the surgery had been delayed due to scheduling issues, and her father's condition was worsening. Emily felt the ground slip from under her feet. She prayed every night, clutching his hand as he grew weaker. There were moments she felt anger at life, at fate, at the unfairness of it all. Why did good people suffer? Why did her father, who had given so much, have to face this? And yet, in the middle of the storm, small rays of light appeared. Strangers who had overheard her story at the cafe began leaving larger tips. A teacher she tutored for offered her extra money, saying, "I see how hard you're trying. Let me help." Even her co-workers, who once complained, started covering shifts to give her a break. Emily realized that kindness was still alive in the world, even if it often came quietly. Finally, the day of the surgery arrived. Emily waited outside the operating room, her heart pounding with fear. Hours passed like days. She paced, prayed, cried, and whispered to herself, "Please, please let him be okay." When the doctor finally walked out with a tired smile and said, "The surgery was a success," Emily collapsed to her knees, sobbing with relief. Her father's recovery was slow but steady. Each day, his smile grew stronger, his voice steadier. One morning, as sunlight spilled into the hospital room, he took Emily's hand and whispered, "You saved me." She shook her head, tears in her eyes. "No, Dad. You saved me a long time ago. I just returned the favor." Emily's journey didn't end there. She still faced challenges, finishing her nursing degree, paying debts, rebuilding her life, but something inside her had changed. She had discovered a strength she never knew she had. The world had tested her, broken her down, but it had not defeated her. The story of Emily and her father is not just about struggle, it's about love, resilience, and the power of never giving up. It's a reminder that even when life feels impossible, even when the road is dark, there is always a reason to keep moving forward. Because sometimes, the strength we find in our hardest moments becomes the light that guides us through. So, if you are listening to this story right now, I want you to remember, your battles do not define you, but the way you rise from them does. Hold on, keep going, and never stop believing in the strength within you. And before you go, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What part of Emily's story touched you the most? Comment down below and share your feelings, I read every single one. And if you found hope in this story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and join our family here at Be Kind Always. Because together, with kindness and strength, we can light the way for each other.